prayer book, our prayers reflect our responsibilities and our relation to God. I think you'll find that fascinating. Okay. Any last comments? Okay. I hope this gave you some food for thought. It's a huge subject. But I'm glad I delved into it because now I have a better understanding, and I hope you do a little bit. So burnt offerings, meal offerings, peace offerings, some individual, and then the last two chapters, 4 and 5, to atone for sins that we unwittingly or unknowingly committed. That's it in a nutshell. Anyhow, I wish you all a great weekend. Unfortunately, I can't be present tonight, but we wanted to be there, but I apologize to Goldie already. Anyhow, be well. I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Appreciate it. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Cantor.
Everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi.
Bob, you're not reformed with an ED.
I know.
No, we're not.
I know.
He's reformed. He reformed himself.
I know. I mean, I realized I made a mistake when I did. Oh, yeah. I know. Right.
Hey, Tom,
Hey, if you're
looking well.
reformed, then you can vote.
You're
Right.
looking well, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you.
And they say tzedakah. What does tzedakah mean? That means give too. Also, tzedakah.
Absolutely. That's under Al Gamilut Chasadim, under acts of loving kindness.
Okay.
That's our responsibility to each other.
Okay.
Acts of
The
righteousness.
definition of tzedakah, tzedek, is justice.
Right.
Right?
Creating a just society. And what sometimes drives me crazy is when somebody says, Rabbi, say a prayer for me.
Yeah.
And I said, my prayers don't have any more clout than yours. I said, but that puts us in a priestly role. That wants us to serve. And my father used the expression ecclesiastical
You look at the back
mechanic,
of my shirt here?
Yeah.
It says Gen Con.
which I thought was very interesting. Ecclesiastical mechanic knows how to do the rituals for a specific purpose. And Cantor and I think about our professions as a little bit more than that. That
It
we're
was very interesting.
building
Rabbi.
community. We're sharing with each other. We're showing, we're caring for each other. We're promoting community. Anyhow, I'm going to wish you well, and I'm get myself on the exercise bike now.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wish you all well. Take care.
What's the-
Good.
How's it going?
Yeah.
I'm so exhausted.
You enjoyed
How
the
you feeling?
the Seder last night. The Sister Seder was great.
Thursday night, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. Linda, how you feeling? Linda?
She's frozen.
Yeah, I think she is. We're all frozen.
It is cold, yes.
Yeah, it's a little chilly out there.
Okay, Cantor, you are live on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
YouTube. There you go.
I see you found the water in the fridge. Ellen moved the water on her this morning and she said, oh no.
Oh, God.
And it's one of those, my allergies are really revving. If you know, I was taking lots of drinks last night from my water, if you know.
Hey, Charlie Diamond, how are you?
Hello, Sheila.
How you doing?
Good thing I got my first AstraZeneca shot today.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's why I'm a few minutes late.
yay. Good for you.
I get my second one in April, a month from now.
Yeah, very good. You'll have to come visit during the summer.
I think it's going to be warmer here than it is in Jacksonville today. It's going up to about
Cold
55
today.
here.
Oh, wow. You're having a heat wave.
Yeah.
I think it'll be just about that today here too, I think. If we don't have that rain that they're predicting. We shall see. Oh. Where's my girl? How you doing, Linda? How you feeling?
I'm doing okay. Just
Good.
bored with baby food and liquid, but
Sure. That's how babies feel.
I guess. The good thing is I think I've lost about 5 pounds, so that's good.
Yeah.
But the difference
Marilyn?
is, Sheila, the babies don't know the difference.
That's true. Oh, I'll tell you, my baby did. He spit out everything.
I did make homemade soupy applesauce. It tasted pretty good because apples were going to go bad. And if you add salt to the baby meat, it tastes palatable. And if you add Splenda to the sweet potatoes, they taste pretty good.
Oh.
It's a small price to pay for the end reward.
Yes, absolutely. Where's Marilyn?
I don't know. Maybe she'll come on for services.
Haven't seen her.
I don't
in a
know.
while.
I know
Linda,
her daughter's coming sometime, but I don't think yet.
Yeah. So your tomorrow.
Linda, do you have heat?
Starts tonight at
I have heat, but I got cold, and I'm sitting in the kitchen with the windows on 3 sides, and the wind is blowing, and it's just sort of whipping around this breakfast bump out area.
That's the day or cold.
Yeah.
So
That's
you're meeting,
what they say is northeastern.
at 1. Huh? At 1. At 1. Okay, good. I'm gonna get my shoes on and go out there and start putting that stuff in the truck and stuff. So you'll be here while I'm doing that.
Oh,
No, I muted them if it's okay.
I know where he's going. He's going somewhere.
And I've been working so hard on this song because it came to me in a key that was not going to work. Actually, there were no chords on it. And I just read so I had to first figure out what chords it was, then transpose it into a key that worked for me. And we are ready to go. And it was this like whole team effort.
I appreciate it. I figured we could just sing it. They know it because
I'm obsessed with being able to accompany if it's not chant. Like if it's a song, I like the guitar, but I looked through all of my books of conservative melodies, nowhere. And I'm like, okay, then it's not necessarily a conservative melody. Where is this, right? So I looked in all of my books, nowhere. I looked in my Psalm 150 file, nothing. So I recorded it and said, all I remembered was, Kol haneshama techaleluya, hallelujah. So I recorded it and sent it to my cantor class. And they started sleuthing, and one of them found a video on YouTube. Apparently, it was sung at the 2011 URJ biennial. And so they were able to figure out the composer. And then I was in a chat with Rabbi Glasser. So I sent her, she has a great accompanist, and I sent her the composer's name, and her accompanist was able to dig it up and send us the music.
great. I love that melody because to me it's a very upbeat melody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's one that I've done with our group. So they are aware of it.
Which one is that?
The one on page 100.
And the way they break up the text once you get past the chorus, I mean, I'm gonna follow the way it breaks it up because it starts with hallelujah, hallelujah, bikocho, hallelujah, right? And it goes into, I mean, cool.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kol Nishama Tehalel, right? Like that, right?
Hallelujah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the way the text is, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to go with what's on my paper because I won't be able to look at the prayer book and the music.
Oh, fine. The way I do it, so my little tick marks in my prayer book for me is I do low, and then I go into the chorus. After it's like every 4 lines.
So they didn't, and then it's not broken up that way in the music, which like totally threw me off because I would have assumed it would be, but it went through, wait, let me get to page 100. It went through.
So I would do Hallelujah, Kirov Gedulo, Kol Nishama, then I would continue on with
so it does.
That one.
So it went Hallelu el Bekocho, Hallelu Bikirazo, Hallelu Bigvoro Tav, Hallelujah, Kol Hanishama, and then it comes back in. And it doesn't make any sense because if you look at where the periods are and the commas.
Right.
So,
that's the way I do it, but you do it the way you want. I appreciate you being open to that melody. I love that melody.
I just know I'm not like without rewriting the text in there, I'm not going to be able to break it up the way that you're used to. Hallelujah, Bikocho, Hallelujah, Berkiazo, Hallelujah, Big Tav, Hallelujah. That's what they did. They did every 3 lines, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, they did every 3 lines.
Okay. Everyone has their way of doing things. That's fine. To me, it's a very upbeat melody. That's why I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it gives you another melody to use.
I'm going to be replacing all kinds of melodies when I no longer
Everything.
play 3 roles instead of 1. I really just want to play 1. The one I play on TV. That's all I
We're
So-
now TV stars.
So yesterday we had our 2nd vaccination, and you could see by here that we had no effects from it. So the kids have sore arms, but other than that, I'll be there at 5:45 to help set up chairs today. And it's going to be rather nasty outside.
in the wind and the rain, and we're just going to do it.
In the rain?
The wind and the rain.
Yeah, well, it'll mess up my hair.
Mine too.
If it's raining hard, I don't know.
No. If it's raining hard and thundering and lightning, we cancel that because that's dangerous. But if it's a light rain, we're gonna go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's not expected to rain hard. It's just
You're getting like the side swipe of the storm. I would love to start. It's 10:30, but I also don't love the idea of spending the next 2 minutes letting people in.
Wait a minute. By the way, last night, I loved that sermon about silence. Yeah, because I've told you in the past that my favorite part of the service is when nothing is happening, because that's my time. Because it's my time with God, my thoughts. And I've never had that opportunity. In the conservative movement, you just go from page to page to page, and there's never any time for you. And so I love that silence. And I notice more and more in movies that I watch that when there's silence going on, I just love it. Now, I'm not talking about silent movies. I'm just talking about movies where they'll play music and things are happening, but it's more powerful than to listen to people. Now, if I could only be silent, I don't know. It doesn't happen. Except when I'm home. So how many are we today? We're 8 people. No Marsha today either. Okay.
Where is she?
Getting ready for Passover. I don't know.
I can read Torah for us if we want today, but I am happy not to, like perfectly happy not to read.
To me, you could skip all of Leviticus. I'm not a Leviticus fan.
Except for Kiddushim. That's it.
Yeah. Blake, we could go through Torah, but
We're done.
Here's Marcia. Here's Marcia.
Okay.
No. Morning,
Not yet.
Marcia.
Wait, she can't hear you yet.
There she is coming on. Yeah.
You know what happened?
What?
I couldn't, good morning, Shabbat Shalom. I couldn't get on from the link on the Temple Times email.
I can't either. I
And the host will let you in soon. It said Erev Shabbat services. Anyway, hi.
How did you get in? What did you use?
I went on to the email that said Temple Week at a Glance.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
that's the one I use.
For some reason, I can't get on with the Temple Time. I just go to Zoom and just plug in the numbers and I get on, so.
Well, I don't want to have to put numbers in. I want to just connect.
Well, what can I tell
Thank you, by the way, Marcia, thank you for last week when I somehow got disconnected and you gave the yeah for Elenu. Thank you. So I could get back on.
I didn't want the people to be discombobulated.
I heard it in my head as I went up to the Ark to close the curtain last night.
And it's really weird because I still want to do it on Friday nights, but I don't want to alienate anybody.
Oh, come on, go for it. What are they going to do? Call you Bishop?
You know what? Better to just save it for when we're back in here because they won't get it.
I know. It's our group thing.
Okay. It is 10:34. I say let's begin, and I will, I'll just pause and let people in if they come into the room. And Marcia, we voted no Torah today. Is that okay? Yes, it's okay.
It's sacrifices.
But that we make.
We'll sacrifice today.
They're actual sacrifices. So yes, we'll
sacrifice by not.
Sacrifice.
We can work with that.
I honestly, between I had a funeral Thursday morning and then the women's Seder and the service last night and this morning, and we've got the Havdalah tonight, and I'm
We're exhausted.
We have to make a bracha. We have to make a bracha on my new car.
Okay, go for it.
We bought a new car yesterday.
Woohoo, Mazel, what did you get?
An Infinity.
Ooh, beautiful. Very nice.
And the value
Driving Lexuses since 1993. I couldn't stand what the inside of that new car looked like. It's horrible what they did to the inside of that Lexus.
Really?
So cheap looking.
Interesting.
Ugly.
Interesting.
So we went to Infinity.
We're about to take out a 2002 Ford F-150 for a battery after services. Our 19-year-old car.
F-150, isn't that a pickup truck?
Yes, I know. The Jew from New York and my wife from Miami, we have a
Only
pickup
rednecks drive a pickup truck.
I didn't buy it.
Frankly, if they're buying it in New York, I don't know where the heck they're parking it, because the parking spaces in New York are not anywhere near as wide as they are here.
No.
Really? I don't think that's.
So they'll need 4 spaces to put a pickup truck.
I had a 20-year-old car.
All right, page 74. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody just because we've got some empty seats there and who knows what's actually happening. Wait, I need my participant list up. So, I'm gonna mute. All right. Oh, wait. Forgot to put my tallis on. Hold on.
While you're doing that, Cantor, since it was announced last night, and this is the group that it affects, the second Saturday in April, we will be live in the sanctuary, providing you wish to go. It'll be on Zoom also, and you have to make reservations in advance so we could do appropriate seating for whatever bubble you bring, maximum of 50 people. like we're gonna get 50 people on a Saturday morning before?
Well, on April 10th, we will, because it's a bat mitzvah.
Oh,
So
yeah, okay.
when there's a bar bat mitzvah, they're gonna get 36, and then we're gonna leave a dozen open for congregants to make reservations. If there's no bar mitzvah, we've got the full 50. And for some of the b'nai mitzvah, if they don't reach their cap, we'll have more openings. Like for Blake's bar mitzvah, the only people coming in person are my immediate family. So we'll have spaces. So yes, stay connected to your emails because we're putting those reservation things together. Now I'm going back to Matovu.
What I needed to say was that day is my birthday.
April 10th is your birthday?
So we'll have a party.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Just saying.
So I should probably just put you right on that list for April 10th.
Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Shkinotecha Yisrael. Va'ani v'rov pastecha, avoitecha. Eshtachavi eilecha, kol shafeh yiratecha. Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov.
Wait, hold on. I'm admitting someone in. There we go.
Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkinotecha Yisrael.
There's just nothing like this experience, is there?
Adonai ahavti v'yorteitecha, u'mekol mishkan kodecha. Lani eshtachavi v'yefra, evrecha lifnei Adonai u'si. Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Shkinotecha Yisrael, Shkinotecha Yisrael, Shkinotecha Yisrael.
All right. Let's head over to the bottom of page 77. Don't let me fall as a stone falls upon the hard ground. And don't let my hands become dry as the twigs of a tree when the wind beats down the last leaves. And when the storm raises dust from the earth with anger and howling, don't let me fall. I have asked for so much. But as a blade of your grass in a distant wild field lets drop a seed in the lap of the earth and dies away, so in me your living breath, as you sow a seed in the earth. Baruch atah Adonai rofei chol basar umafli la'asot. Elohai neshama at the top of page 78.
Elohai, Elohai, neshama, shenatata vi tehorai, taberata, hatoitzarta, hatonefachta vi, riata mishamna, mishamra bikirbi. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, shenatata bi teho.
At the top of page 79, matter is never destroyed, only transformed. So too can the soul evolve higher and higher, from instinct to inspiration, haughtiness to holiness, selfishness to service, from individualism to union to join with the soul of souls, the infinite one. As the soul is magnified and sanctified, so is the infinite one exalted. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. Nisim b'chol yom, page 80. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesechvivina, lehavchin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokei achivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokach haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaber.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten le'ayef koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'enai u'duma me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam jasani b'tselem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani bat chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam jasani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam otei Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Let's read the top of page 87. Marcia, would you read the top of page 87 for us, we seekers?
We seekers of God, how do we find you? In good deeds and in the study of Torah. And your search for us? You find us in the bending of the knee, in the rigor of study, in the honesty of commerce, through a good heart, through decency, in respect, true friendship, companionship, and love, through truth and peace, in the no that it's really no, and the yes that it's really yes. Baruch atah Adonai, hamlamed Torah la'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Thank you. Elu Devarim, page 88. Elu Devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu Devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu Devarim she'en lahem shiur. Ve'elu hein kibud afayim ugmilut chasadim. להשכמת בית המדרש שחרית וידי. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הן להכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים, להכנסת כלה וביד המת, ביון תפילה, להנאת שלום בין אדם לחברו, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם. Let's move over now to page 100 for Psalm 150. And I'm so excited that we have this morning Ed Mallow's favorite melody. In the key of G, I think is what I went with. I've got some D's in here, I'm not sure. Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah. Hallelujah, el bikocho, hallelujah, birkiazo, hallelujah, bigur otam. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Kirov good Lord. Hallelujah. Take a shofar. Hallelujah. Never let me know. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. B'tofu macho. Hallelujah. B'minim ve'uga. Hallelujah. B'tziltzalei shama. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. B'tziltzalei trua. Kol haneshama tehallel. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah. So Ed, would you take us over to 107?
Be my honor. What makes a fire burn is space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and absence of fuel together that make the fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way.
Thank you, Ed. And just on the right-hand side on page 106. Yitkadash, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah. Yamad Yivrach Yerutev, Yamlich Mochutev. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. V'agalav v'zeman kariv, v'meru Amen. Yehesh mirabam mivolach, ve'alam ulamir hanaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitpa'ar v'yitrambam v'yitnaseh, yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmei dekudsha, v'yichulei lamincho bechata v'shirata, v'shbechata v'nechemata, v'mirani olema, v'meru amen. On page 108, we rise either in body or in spirit for our call to prayer. The top of 110. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or vorei choshech, se shalom shalom vorei hakol. Yotzer or vorei choshech, se shalom shalom vorei hakol. Jenny, would you read for us? Do you have the big book or the Shabbat one? The Shabbat, that's the Shabbat one, right? On page 111, in the middle of the page, you are praised.
In the middle of the page, okay. You are praised. Who rolls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that is turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea. You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer Hamorot.
Thank you. On the next page, how deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life, be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah.
וירא את שמך ולא ניחוש ולא ניחלים ולא ניחשים לעולם כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא פתחנו נגילה ונשמחה בשובתך.
In the middle of 113, Love your neighbor as yourself, you said. And light blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai habocher ba'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vahed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vahed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Let's be seated once again, and we'll continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 116. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha Ukshartam lehot aliyadecha, v'chayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam amezuzot beitecha uvisharecha, leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim lelohecha, ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, li'od lachem l'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 123 at the top. Sheila, would you read for us?
Okay, yes, ma'am. The good in us will win over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done. We will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing. And the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won. Our hearts beat with certainty that, excuse me, that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end, and the nations will hear it. And like the caravans in the desert, will all to that morning throng. Thank you.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Noradi lo oseh bele, noradi lo oseh bele, Adonai yimloch le'olam. Shira chadasha shifru Yerulim, לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נתת בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נתת בקודש. נורתי לו עושה פלא, נורתי לו עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Israel, Oma be'ezrat Yisrael, V'teichenu mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael. Oh, Hallelu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 124. Adonai sefatai tiftachu v'yagite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Havot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei v'neihem Le'ma'an Shemo v'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atarav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem. Mechakel chayim v'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishein ne'afar. Michamocha ba'al givurot, umido melach, melech memit umechayer, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'neman atalach hayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hakol. Before we head on to the Kedusha, page 129. God, you are the open door that beckons me in. Peeking around the door frame, I begin to enter into your glory. You move me forward, O Eternal, to step beyond self-made boundaries. Lift my foot over the threshold that I might abide with you. In the house of the Eternal, I found my questions. Waiting to be posed, they filled me with wonder. Sit with me, eternal teacher. Encourage my seeking. As I fill my hours with your mitzvot, so shall I be filled. Send me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in the giving. Baruch atah Adonai notea b'tochenu chayei olam. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמור. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו. רחמיו לעיני כל חי, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד לך, ונצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני הקדוש. Let us be seated once again and celebrate Shabbat with the words of Yismachu at the top of 132. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Mikadoshi, Mikadoshi shmi Shabbat. Kulam yisbehu, v'yitanbu mitulecha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Ashri ratzita ba v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim otu karata Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Zechi l'maseh v'rishit Shabbat. Zechi l'maseh v'rishit Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomri, 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 Shabbat b'koreh kodesh Shabbat. Linda, would you read for us on page 134?
Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Thank you. Sheila, would you take the bottom of 137 for us?
Okay. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'echa le'avadcha berach da'avod.
Amen. Marcia, would you read with me on page 139?
A duet?
Yes, a duet, exactly. If you would begin, go ahead.
For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, Modim Anachnu Lach.
We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds.
Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha el hamelech hadot.
Amen. Sim Shalom, page 140.
Sim Shalom, Tova Uracha, Chen Chesed Rachamim Verachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Anecha, Malchinu Yotzrinu Kulanu Keachad, Yorchad Echad, Give Yor Panecha Natatan, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim Shalom, Tova Uracha, Ein Chesed Verachamim Verachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, Kurasayim Yahavat Chesed, Ve'ahavat Chesed, Utzedaka Uvracha V'Rachanim, V'Chaim V'Shalom. Sim Shalom, Tova Uracha, Ein Chesed Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, V'tovin Le'cholei, Et Amocha Yisrael, V'cholei V'kol Shalom, Yishlomecha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uracha, Ein Chesed Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha.
Let's take a moment now for our own silent prayers.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Let's all unmute for a few minutes. So last night, and I think most of us were there, well, I'm going to do a little summary for you, Marcia. So I found this really great Devar Torah by a rabbi named, I think it was Ben Spratt, but let me just double check that.
That would be the brother of Jack Spratt.
Yes. Ben Spratt. Okay, so it was a really neat Devar Torah, and it talked about in the Torah the first word of the book of Leviticus is Vayikra, and God called out to Moses, and the Devar Torah was about the little aleph. So that word Vayikra in the Torah, the aleph at the end of it is half the size of the rest of the letters in the word. And there were mystics that talked about that aleph as being the silence, but that's all of God's words, that God actually speaks to us from the silence, and that only those who are truly listening are the ones who can hear God when God calls out. And I don't know if you'll see, it probably won't show it in anything, but it does. It shows in the, yeah. Would you flip it around and hold it up to your camera? The little, maybe we'll be able to see it if we get nice. There it is, that very first word on the right-hand side. So the aleph just means verse 1. And then you have Vayikra, and that aleph at the end of the word is that small aleph.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed. This idea that we're just not, we don't sit in silence. And so many people, there was actually a study, there was a scientific study done that proved that people would prefer to be shocked with electric shock than to sit in silence.
It is.
So, I've worked with people who were uncomfortable in silence, who insisted that during silent prayer and all moments, the accompanist must be playing. There must be music going at all times, and it's fascinating because Ed, share a little bit, if you don't mind, a little bit of your experience with silence, and then I'd love to just talk a little bit about what we hear in the silence.
So to me, what makes the services really meaningful to me is that I am given time for my experience with God or with whatever's going on with me. Never having had that experience in conservative Judaism, we just go from one page to another, or Orthodox, we go from one page to another, and it's nonstop. We at Temple, my favorite part, and it really was never a slur to clergy, is twice. We are once, well, it used to be twice that we were silent. We're silent at the end of what we just came through, the Amidah, and that's our turn. So I get to thank God for this past week and for blessing me with my family. And then I get to thank God for allowing me to be a partner with God and for whatever else and ask things. And it's my time. The second time we used to do, which we don't do anymore, and we may bring back, that's up to the rabbi when she comes, is before we would do the Mourner's Kaddish, after we mentioned the names, we used to take a moment just to consider the person before we did that as a community. We haven't done that in years, but I may bring that up again or ask the new head of ritual if there's going to be one this year to do it.
Stepping down?
After 4 years, come on.
Not a chance.
Step down the whole time.
But the fact of the matter is that silence gives me even more spirituality that I have during the service. And that's not to say that the rest of the service isn't spiritual. You'll always see me rocking back and forth and stuff. But the silence to me is more important. And as I stated earlier before services, in movies, God, I lately I've been watching stuff on TV where, especially on older movies, where it would just be, soft music playing and you're watching a person instead of just constantly hearing. And I get so much more out of it that way.
We've actually, one of the shows that really helped me get through this year was the show Schitt's Creek. It's a Canadian comedy. It is absolutely adorable, witty, warm. It's a beautiful story of family. But one of the things that really struck me and Ian is there were many, many scenes. They're such wonderful actors that they can have entire conversations with each other without saying a word. and that really is an art.
Body language.
Yeah. Just expressions. It was even just in the eyes in some moments. And one of the things that actually, this was a line from this Devar Torah. Our early sages imagined that since the dawn of time, God has been calling out to every person at every moment. Abraham was simply the first person to be silent enough to notice. Our sages suggest God has been calling out of a bush of flame. Moses was simply the first person silent enough to notice. And then God was whispering in the quiet, and Elijah was the first to notice it on the mountaintop when we read about the still small voice. So when we're not quiet, what are we missing? I mean, we did spend a lot of time in quiet this year, I will imagine, although it really depends on our homes, right? So I'm sure that my home was much louder all year than someone certainly who lives alone. So, our relationship with silence this year has been different based on our circumstances.
But there's a difference between silence when you're with people you love.
I just lost Marcia's sound. Did everyone else lose Marcia's sound?
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, your sound went out. I don't know why, and it doesn't say that you're muted. Yes, it does. Somehow you muted. There you go.
Okay, that was dumb. There's a difference to me, a vast difference in quiet time or silence when you're with people that you know and love, as opposed to when you're by yourself, not willingly, as so many people were this year. They were by themselves because of the circumstances, and that's a very difficult silence. When you're silent with people or by choice without people, it's a different kind of silence. It's an appreciated silence.
Absolutely. And that companionable silence that you can have with your partner, maybe where, one of you is reading a book, the other's reading the newspaper, and you do this for 2 hours, and it feels as if you've been talking. It's that same, even though you're not interacting, you're engaging in a similar activity, you're in the same room together, and that energy is still shared. For sure.
I find it, for me, taking a walk and just listening, my own quiet, that I'm hearing the birds or just communing with nature is very peaceful to me. And I wonder why people are out there running with their headphones on or their phones chit-chatting with their friends, and they're missing the whole beautiful world that we have. It's just mystifying to me, but to each his own, I guess.
It's true. And there are, so I'm sure my sister's not watching this on YouTube. But my sister, I'm fine with silence. I am fine with silence. My sister cannot deal with silence. And it's fascinating because, now that I'm older, I'm paying attention to it, and I don't see her that often. So it's really apparent to me when we are together that she has this need to fill every space with sound. And for Ian and I, who spend more of our time in companionable silence and always have, than in the constant chit chat, it's really noticeable. And I watch him, he often, my husband will remove himself for a little while because he needs it. I'll find it somewhere, but he needs it. And it's, depending on how much time we're with her, it's really noticeable. My mother's similar too. So some people just have that need, that need to fill that silence, that they don't want to be alone with that silence. So during silent prayer, I was listening, because that's what I do too, Linda. And I hear the cars going along San Jose, and that, I listen to it, and it's calming to me. It's just like that, the sound of the wheels. And if it's wet out, if it's raining outside, and it has a different sound as the wheels, as the wheels.
It's like a hum, but I will confess, when I'm home alone, and this year my significant other stayed with me during the pandemic, but when I'm alone, which is most of the time normally, I have to confess, I may have the TV on in one side of the house and also in the other side of the house. Mm-hmm. Because in a way, that noise in the house is comforting. I know that sounds weird, and yet when I'm out in nature, I don't want that noise. I want the nature sounds.
No, I don't think that's weird at all.
It's company when you live by yourself, mm-hmm. to have the TV on, or radio on, music, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My father likes to have the news station going on all the time with the talking heads. All the time.
I don't need something going. I mean, you know that I crochet, and I could sit in my cave crocheting for hours. I don't put any music on. I don't talk to myself. I just think, and it's so refreshing. Mm-hmm. Somehow, because I'm doing something constructive, but I'm not having to make conversation with anyone. Mm-hmm. And it's just refreshing to me.
My silence is I read a lot, and nothing is on, but I'm engrossed in my books. I'm a voracious reader of novels, and then I usually see him at library at times.
And it's interesting, Marcia, that you said I don't talk to myself, but I think a lot. I like, for me, those are one and the same. Like I don't, when I'm thinking, I feel like I'm having a conversation in my head, that those thoughts that it's a running narrative. So even though I'm not speaking out loud, if I'm thinking, to me, it feels like more noise because it just feels like a constant conversation. So I find things like the sound of the cars going by that are able to take that part away, that constant, the remuneration, rumination, the ruminations that go on, right? That'll stop it if I hear another sound that can take me away. So it's really fascinating. You know, some people, their happy place is in the most crowded, you know, people love New York City, my gosh. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love New York City, but living there for 5 years for me was it was sensory overload.
What am I supposed to say?
Right? I lived right in New York City. I lived right off of Union Square, and it was at all times sensory overload. You know, the bustle of the people and the sounds, the horns, but what was so amazing, because I was still in Israel when I needed to find somewhere to live in New York. So my mom actually went up to Manhattan to find an apartment for me, and she found, I don't know how she did it. I think
a hole in the wall.
She found the quietest place in Manhattan. It was unreal. It was at the back of an apartment. I lived on 12th Street and 5th Avenue.
Okay.
An apartment in the very back of the building. And behind me was Parsons School of Design. And to the right of me was Forbes magazine. There was a courtyard. No one could access it, but it looked over a courtyard. My neighbor upstairs, it was a family pied-à-terre that they only visited sometimes. The family that lived to the right of me was a couple who, they were snowbirds, so they were only there part of the year.
Lucky you.
So I grew up, my brother was so loud and he would wake up in the middle of the night. It's not that he was so loud, but he is still a night owl. And he would get up in the middle of the night and cook in the kitchen, and it would wake me up. So I, through high school, slept with earplugs. I slept with earplugs to be able to have that silence. I slept with earplugs in college. I slept with earplugs that year in Israel. When was I able to stop sleeping with earplugs in my ear?
In your apartment in Manhattan.
My apartment in Manhattan.
My son still sleeps with earplugs in his ears today, and we share a house together, and he'll still sleep with his.
Yeah,
and I am a very light sleeper. One noise and I'm up. And it happened last night. Somebody texted me at 11:30. I had just gone to sleep.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I heard my phone, and I thought I would kill my girlfriend.
My phone goes on silent from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. because people think it is okay to text me in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I put it on silent last night. That was my mistake.
No, we have a friend, Emily. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if you could hear me. To give some credit to New York, I grew up in Manhattan on Gramercy Park, right on the park in a building.
Yeah.
And something that I miss and that my mom still has the place there that I get to see when I go back is, you're right, the streets are hustle and bustle, and it's, you know, sometimes hot and loud and all these noises. But then as soon as I would open the door to go into the lobby of the building and the door would close behind me, it would be complete silence. You could drop a pin and hear it echo off of the tile in the lobby. And I always loved the contrast. Like, I guess I like noise and I like quiet, but to be able to go from one extreme to the other is something that I always found quite beautiful. And I feel like New York, Manhattan is one of the few places where you can have that.
Yeah, I used to describe the time that I was like, because I was a South Florida kid living in New York City. And I used to describe New York as a hurricane, and that my apartment was the eye. And that it was so calm and so peaceful and so wonderful. But as soon as I stepped out of the apartment, it was whoosh, throwing me around.
Well, you know that I lived in New York until I came here 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in Brooklyn. And there were people all over the place everywhere. I mean, there was no empty space.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever that tree grew in Brooklyn, I don't know where it grew. But anyway, we had we had the Long Island Railroad freight train a block away from our apartment house. And that train went by every night, at least 3 or 4 times. And after a while, I didn't hear it anymore.
Hear it. Just
And it went, but it wasn't penetrating anymore. And although I was awake and I was aware that the train was going, the rhythm of it was kind of like a welcome silence, so to speak, for me.
Marsha, where did you live in Brooklyn?
Flatbush, right, a block from Brooklyn College.
Okay, I lived in Brooklyn. I was in Williamsburg part of Brooklyn.
Oh, the other end.
The other end.
She was right by Ebinger's for the blackout cake.
I remember Ebinger's, boy.
Let me tell you, that blackout cake, nobody ever could come near it.
I agree. I will say that since in the last few months, now that I'm 60, a young, old 60, I don't have silence anymore. The tinnitus that I've developed, that I have not gone to a doctor. I have ringing in my ears when it's silence. So now I'm going for noise because the silence is, well, there's constant ringing. And I don't know anything about that. I'll check that out. They say marijuana gummy bears, but I'm not sure about that.
My son is your age. My Bruce is your age. Ed, you know that. He's your age.
No.
Okay, I have to ring in here, Mr. Mallow. My mom, 78 years old, anti-marijuana her entire life, is in so much pain that the gummy bears have helped her tremendously. Her doctor recommended it. So, you know, there's a lot of medicinal value there. And I think that there's such a stigma to it that so many people are steering away from it. I would try what your doctor suggests.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Nice to not see you this morning, but, but I'm glad you're with us.
Going back to talking about the silence and the noise, a long time ago, back in the day, as we old folks might say.
Older.
Yeah, older. Okay. Well, I'll be 80. I'll be 80 in July. But anyway,
I'm still older than you.
probably always will be then. Huh?
I will be. I'll be 88 in June.
Okay. Well, good for you. But I had an application from a student in mainland China, and he wanted to come in and get a graduate degree with me at the University of Alabama. And so we got him admitted, and then he flew there, and he flew into the airport. At the time, there was a commercial airport in Tuscaloosa, where the university, the main campus of the university was located. In more recent years, you had to go in and out of Birmingham unless you had a private plane or something like that. But anyway, so he flew to Tuscaloosa. Barbara and I met him at the airport, and we're driving him into town, and he was kind of seemed like disturbed. And it was like, and finally it was like he said, "Where are all the people?" And I realized that he expected to see like hundreds, thousands, whatever of people just walking around in the streets or on the in town and whatever, and there were very few, if any, and as we were driving by, and he was afraid there was some kind of calamity or something, I guess. I don't know, but it was quite a different experience for someone like that.
You know, there were moments, and then we'll get back on track, I promise. But there are moments in my life where I can really pinpoint those unusual silences that are, you know, they're not right. They're unnatural silence. The unnatural silence, the unnatural silence on September 11th in Manhattan. You know, that wasn't it because that's not Manhattan, right? That it felt there were so few cars on the street and so few people walking around, and there were entire areas where you weren't even allowed to drive. We walked up the middle of 6th Avenue from 12th Street up to the Upper West Side. And it was so unsettling because it wasn't what it was supposed to be. It just didn't feel right at all.
Well, it's the same kind of silence in the city during the pandemic, when everything was shut down.
Right, and that's
when did you ever see Broadway empty like that?
Right, exactly.
It was so unnatural.
And then there's, Yom Kippur in Jerusalem, but it's a silence of, from the cars and the streets and everything's open, but instead of feeling like an unnatural silence, it's an extraordinary silence. It's a special silence, those moments, because that the whole community has chosen to be silent, so it's magnificent. And I loved thinking about it and reading about it last night, and thanks for going with me and sharing for a few minutes. We're going to turn now, let's turn over to page 253 for our Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, ve'Leah. V'yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. Our congregation today is especially thinking of Carol Babcock, Rosalie Teddy Bono, Peggy Saren Clark, Tom Davis, Devorah Bat Rachel, the Elkin family of South California, Howard Enns, Art Fields, Amanda Garamita, Jim Grant, Deborah Gunn, Alan Halperin, Margaret Hare, Mary Hartman, Robert Kay, Mike Klitinick, Marilyn Levitt, Teresa Levy, Barbara McDonald, Gary Nadler, Naomi Nagel, David Osofsky, Laura Osofsky, Buddy Pollack, Jean Posen, Joyce Racklin, Randall Rout, Sandra Resnikoff, Alex Rosen, Stephanie Sibilia, Judy Shea, Ruthie Silver, Ron Zone, Bernice Tobias, David Van Alstine, Ruth Van Alstine, Judy Van Gorder, Caroline Wink. And let's add to that list today the names that we have to share. Sheila, would you like to go first?
Yes, Lisa Emanuel, Lori Kurland, Bruce Emanuel, and Barbie Young.
Thank you. Thank you. Jenny, do you have any names to share today for Misha Berach list?
Just myself.
Absolutely, Jenny. We're so glad you're here today. I love seeing you.
Oh, I miss you guys.
We'll see you
miss you too.
Linda, do you have any names you'd like to add this morning? You're muted.
Chantel Norman.
Thank you. Marcia, do you have any names you need to add this morning? Ron?
Not this morning.
Okay, and Ed. Okay, so everyone whom we've named aloud and those who we hold in our hearts, join together with the Misha Berach. Again, page 253.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say amen.
And that was so rude of me because I was only looking at the people whose faces were on the screen. Emily, if you are there and you have any names to share of someone who's in need of healing in your life, please go ahead and unmute and share with us. Okay, so we'll go ahead on to verse 2.
Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah Shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
No, come here.
All right, so let's turn over now to Aleinu on page 282, and we rise either in body or spirit. I'm going to go ahead and open the ark. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עצרנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורר עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Yeah.
Let's be seated. Page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Our congregational family, this Shabbat, is in a period of Shiva for Lois Zoller and Howard Enzel, and Shloshim for Carol Brody, Frederick Enzel, and Anna Elenoff. In this Shabbat, we observe the yard site for Max Mickey Block, Werner Lee Braverman, Mildred Brigant, Edgar Brown, Eleanor Brown, Seymour Burns, Barnett Chepnick, Bertie Cohen, Melvin O. Cohen, Faye Fields, Terry Friedman, Lena K. Guerin, Milton Geldman, Leslie Goldstein, Mary Goodman, Jules Granite, Paula L. Isaacs, Zelda Commissar, Mordechai Capel, Susan Katz, Dr. Bernard K., Mildred Klitinick, Charles Lee, Stephen Margulies, Robert Bob Myers, Dora Pinkin, Thelma Perlman, Marianne Rabinowitz, Sanford S. Schwartz, Michael Seaball, Albert Smolin, Alexander Spivak, Sigmund Sultan, Joaquin Tuchman, Nathan Vandroff, Ella Vandroff, the Reverend Dr. Carl Herman Voss, Sylvia Yanoff Friedman. And if anybody else has a name to add this morning, please go ahead and unmute and share that name now.
Yeah, I would just like to add the name of my father, J. Sigmund Levy. His yard site is actually in April, but today is his Hebrew yard site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add Mary McCarthy. She is someone that we just lost recently.
Thank you so much, Jenny. All right, everybody. So let's rise together as a community. For all of those whom we've named aloud and those we hold dear in our hearts, we'll extol God's name through Kaddish Yatom, the Mortar's Kaddish, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'agala uv'izman karim v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach la'alamul almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha berichu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all those who mourn. And we say once again, amen. We're going to conclude our service this morning with Adon Olam on page 321. This is that French Sephardic melody that I think I brought back to us last month. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa b'chefso kol hazay melech shemo nikra hazay melech shemo nikra v'acharei kiflot hakol levato yimloch nora vehu haya vehu hove vehu yeh b'tifara vehu yeh b'tifara vehu echad v'yein sheni lehamshilo lehapira v'lireshit v'litachlit v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra v'hu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzur chavni v'yetzara v'hu nisi umanos li v'nat kosi v'yom ekra v'nat kosi v'yom ekra v'yado afki ruchi v'eiti shan v'yayira v'im ruchi geviyati Adonai vi v'lo ira Adonai vi v'lo ira. All right, Shabbat Shalom. Let's make a little kiddush and motzi. Please unmute.
Ed, your sound was great.
I don't know what happened because nothing's changed.
Better.
Modeling is gone.
I don't know.
Here's to that. Baruch atah
Eloheinu melech haolam, Kori hagafen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Oh. Next week we'll have morning and night.
That is true. And look, I forgot to bring this thing home. I can bless it again.
Oh my gosh.
It meant my children did not get the French toast that I had told them they were getting. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'amayzid ha'aretz. Amen.
Tei Avon, Shabbat Shalom. Tonight is the Havdalah outdoors in the parking lot.
See you tonight.
Awesome.
What time?
So we're doing the biblical garden dedication at 6:45, and then we'll lead into Havdalah. I've got some songs ready to go. We're going to do some Passover songs too to get in the mood. And I'm just hoping it's just a drizzle and not a pour.
I'll find out.
I'm fine. My hair can get ruined. It's fine. But just a drizzle, please.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Do not sing Mayim this afternoon.
No, I won't. I will not.
But now that you said it, it's gonna get stuck in my head. Oh no. That is so dangerous. Oh my
Hey,
God.
see everyone later.
Okay, awesome, everybody. So much.
Shalom.
See you soon.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
I love you guys.
Love you too, Jenny.
Shalom.
We will see everyone tonight. We'll see.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye, Ron. Send our love to Barbara.
I will. She's actually here, but she's resting.
Okay.
Good for her.
All right. Have a great day. See you soon.
Okay.